Wealthy Thoughts Only Build a Mindset That Attracts Prosperity. Written by Ronnie Rowland. Published by Growth Literacy Lounge. Wealth begins long before the money arrives. It starts in the unseen, a passing thought, a quiet belief, a silent agreement we make with ourselves about what is possible. Before the zeros in a bank account or the title on a door, wealth is conceived in the mind. Imagine your thoughts as architects. Each one drafts the blueprint of your future. Think small, and the structure collapses under the weight of doubt. Think wisely, abundantly, expansively, and you begin to build a foundation strong enough to hold the life you desire. But here's the truth most never realize: your reality doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you expect. That's why this book exists, not to teach you how to chase wealth, but to become the kind of thinker who attracts it. Prosperity is less a pursuit, more a permission. When you give your mind permission to think differently, your life begins to shape itself accordingly. As motivational icon Earl Nightingale once said, we become what we think about. Not what we wish for. Not what we say we want. What we think, consistently, deliberately, relentlessly. This book is your invitation to think differently. To challenge scarcity with clarity. To replace passivity with vision. To stop reacting and start architecting. You won't find fluff here. Just mental tools, metaphors, and mindsets that shift your signal, because wealthy thoughts are the frequency that prosperity understands. Turn the page, tune your mind, and let's begin building what lasts. Chapter 1: The Frequency of Wealth. If your thoughts were music, what would your life be dancing to right now? Every thought sends out a signal. Most people don't notice, but the world is constantly responding to the mental frequencies they broadcast. The anxious thought of not having enough? It hums at a low, static-filled pitch. The confident belief that more is on the way? That's a clear, crisp tone, one that opportunity seems to recognize instantly. Like tuning a radio, you get the clearest results when you're on the right station. But most minds are stuck on interference. Scarcity is the static. It distorts perception, clouds judgment, and mutes potential. People don't just hear lack, they begin to think in it, speak in it, and act in it. Before long, they're not just broke in their wallets, they're bankrupt in their thinking. Wealth, on the other hand, has a frequency of its own. It doesn't shout. It resonates. It echoes in people who think in terms of growth, not survival, value, not desperation. It doesn't mean pretending you're rich when you're not. It means refusing to think like a victim when you're capable of being a creator. The difference is subtle, but seismic. A scarcity mind walks into a room and scans for threats. A wealthy mind scans for opportunities. One asks, "What might go wrong?" The other wonders, "What could be built here?" This is not wishful thinking, it's neurological patterning. The brain follows the focus. Like a heat-seeking missile, it locks onto what it's told to find. If the directive is fear, it finds reasons to panic. If the command is curiosity, it searches for openings. The thoughts you repeat become mental commands. The question is, what orders are you giving? Studies in cognitive psychology reveal that mindset literally influences perception. In one famous experiment, subjects primed to think about elderly stereotypes walked more slowly afterward, just because of the thoughts planted in their mind moments earlier. The body followed the signal. So does behavior, performance, and financial decision-making. That's how powerful internal programming can be. If you tell yourself there are no opportunities, your brain stops looking. Tell it there's always a way, and suddenly doors start appearing where there were only walls. The difference isn't luck. It's frequency. Think of your mind as a signal tower. The message you broadcast determines what you receive. If you're sending out static fear, resentment, envy, you'll get more noise. But if you calibrate your thoughts to clarity, courage, and creativity, the signal sharpens. You start tuning into different conversations, rooms, and relationships. Suddenly, wealth doesn't feel so far, it feels inevitable. It's not magic. It's alignment. This is why the journey begins with your thoughts. Not your strategy. Not your circumstances. Thoughts are the seed. Everything else is fruit. Change the seed, change the harvest. Wealthy thoughts only. That's not a slogan. It's a strategy. Every time you choose abundance over anxiety, solution over scarcity, you reinforce a new signal. With repetition, it becomes default. With default, it becomes identity. And when you think like wealth, you begin to move like wealth. Speak like it. Decide like it. You don't wait for permission, you act with purpose. That shift alone separates the stagnant from the unstoppable. This is your moment to tune differently. Tune deliberately. Tune with expectation, not hesitation. Because wealth doesn't find the loudest voice. It finds the clearest signal. You're not chasing prosperity. You're learning to attract it. Thoughts are mental frequencies. What you emit, you invite. Scarcity creates static. Wealth resonates with clarity and belief. The brain follows focus. Train it to scan for abundance. What signal have your thoughts been broadcasting lately, and where has it led you? Today, catch and reframe one scarcity thought into a possibility-focused one. Speak it out loud. Let your mind hear the new frequency. Chapter 2: Scarcity is a script, rewrite it. A child hears, "Money doesn't grow on trees," and doesn't question it. It's just a sentence at first. Then it becomes a belief. Later, it becomes a budget, a hesitation, a self-imposed ceiling. What was once an offhand remark becomes a lifelong script, and that script starts writing the story. Scarcity is rarely born from reality. It's inherited, passed down like old furniture and worn-out advice. It's absorbed from the anxious tone in a parent's voice, the caution in a teacher's warning, or the shame in a friend's failure. Slowly, it etches itself into the walls of the mind until it becomes architecture. And once it's built, you live inside it. But scripts can be rewritten. Many people walk through life repeating lines they never auditioned for. They speak about money with phrases soaked in limitation. "I'll never be able to afford that. People like me don't get ahead. That's just the way it is." These aren't observations. They're affirmations. And the brain, ever obedient, arranges perception to match the script. This is not about blame, it's about awareness. You didn't choose your starting script. But you are responsible for revising it. Because your script isn't just in your mind. It leaks into your choices. It shapes how you negotiate, what you settle for, and where you stop before you've even started. Scarcity isn't just a lack of resources, it's a lack of imagination. It convinces you to make decisions based on what is instead of what could be. It teaches you to shrink your dreams to fit your current means, instead of expanding your means to fit your vision. A wealthy mindset doesn't ignore limitations. It reframes them. It sees constraints not as barriers, but as boundaries to push against. It doesn't say, "I can't." It asks, what needs to shift for this to become possible? There's a psychological principle known as confirmation bias, the tendency to interpret new information in a way that confirms what you already believe. If you believe resources are scarce, you'll overlook abundance even when it's in front of you. If you believe opportunity is always around the corner, your attention sharpens to find it. What you look for, you find. What you expect, you detect. That's why rewriting your mental script matters. It's not motivational fluff, it's neurological leverage. Your beliefs become filters. Change the belief, and new possibilities start getting through. It's like updating your mental software. Same brain, new operating system. Consider the story of an entrepreneur who grew up hearing, "Playing it safe is the smart thing to do." That script kept her in jobs she hated and opportunities she feared. One day, she changed one line. "Playing it smart means trusting my potential." That subtle rewrite gave her permission to try. The business she launched didn't just succeed, it rewrote the financial script for her entire family. This is how legacy begins, not with a windfall, but with a word. One rewritten line of thought. One new decision. One moment where you stop reciting the old story and start composing a better one. Every day, you are speaking lines that shape your financial future. Are they borrowed from fear, or crafted from vision? Wealth doesn't just require effort, it requires editing. And every time you rewrite a limiting thought, you revise the outcome. Start small. Start often. Because the script is powerful, but so are you. Scarcity is often inherited thinking, not truth. Beliefs become filters, change them to change what you see. Rewriting your mental script shifts your financial trajectory. What limiting money belief have you repeated, and who gave it to you? Write down one scarcity-based thought you often think. Flip it into an empowering statement, and repeat it throughout the day. Chapter 3: The Language of Abundance. Words are not just descriptors, they're designers. Every sentence you speak is a brick, and over time, your language becomes the structure you live in. The difference between a fortress and a cage often lies in the vocabulary that built it. Abundance has a language. It sounds different from the dialect of scarcity. Where scarcity says, "I can't," abundance asks, "What would it take?" Where scarcity whispers, "I'm stuck," abundance replies, "There's another way." The shift is subtle, but the results are profound. Language is the steering wheel of thought. Change your words, and your mind takes a different route. We often underestimate how deeply our words reflect our inner wiring. A person might claim to want prosperity, but if their daily vocabulary is soaked in lack, complaints about bills, jokes about being broke, constant verbal disclaimers like, "I'm just surviving," then their internal reality is misaligned with their external goals. The universe doesn't just hear what you say, it watches what you consistently reinforce. And so does your subconscious. Neuroscience confirms that spoken language influences neural pathways. In one study, people who used positive self-talk activated brain regions associated with motivation and problem-solving. In contrast, negative or defeatist language lit up regions tied to stress and emotional pain. It's not metaphorical, your words train your brain. This isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about choosing language that empowers, not imprisons. When you say, "I'm learning how to manage money," instead of, "I'm terrible with money," you create space for growth. When you say, "I'm exploring new income streams," instead of, "I'm always broke," you invite solutions to enter the conversation. Words are also contagious. The language you use shapes the environment around you. When you speak in terms of abundance, those nearby begin to mirror that mindset. It elevates the room. People feel possibility rise. Conversations shift from complaints to creativity, from gossip to growth. Think of a person who always speaks in terms of opportunity. They don't ignore problems, they interpret them differently. A financial setback becomes a learning moment. A job loss becomes a redirection. That person doesn't just inspire others, they become a magnet for solutions, collaborations, and unexpected support. Why? Because their language keeps the frequency open. Now consider the opposite. Someone who always talks about what's missing, what's broken, what can't be done. Their words build walls. Their speech repels progress. Even when a door opens, they're too busy describing the lock to walk through it. Abundance isn't loud. It's precise. It doesn't brag or boast. It affirms. It speaks with expectation, not entitlement. It says there's more where that came from, not because of arrogance, but because of alignment. The words you speak over your life are the seeds you plant in your future. Speak drought, and you'll see dry ground. Speak rain, and you prepare for harvest. This chapter is not an invitation to empty affirmations. It's a call to conscious speech. To speak like someone who believes in increase. To edit your vocabulary so that it aligns with the vision you hold, not the fear you've inherited. Because wealthy thinking starts with wealthy speaking. Not fake, not forced, just faithful. Faithful to the future you are building, one word at a time. Your words design your mental and emotional environment. Abundance speaks possibility, scarcity echoes limitation. Conscious language choices reshape your mindset and outcomes. What words do you consistently use that might be reinforcing a scarcity mindset? Replace one limiting phrase you say often with an empowering alternative. Use it in conversation today, speak the shift into motion. Chapter 4: Mental Diets Matter. What you feed your mind is just as important as what you feed your body. Junk in, junk out. You wouldn't expect to eat processed food every day and feel energized, yet people consume toxic thoughts, conversations, and media, then wonder why their outlook is heavy, sluggish, and uninspired. Your mind has a diet. Every headline, every post, every offhand comment, it's either nourishing or depleting your ability to think abundantly. And the challenge is, scarcity isn't always loud. It whispers in subtle tones, through complaining coworkers, pessimistic relatives, or just being realistic news reports. It drips into your awareness until you start echoing it back, not even realizing the shift. But just like the body can be trained to crave clean fuel, the mind can be trained to hunger for truth, wisdom, and vision. The shift begins with awareness. Pay attention to what you're mentally consuming. If your thoughts feel cloudy, heavy, or anxious, trace it back to the inputs. The mind doesn't randomly wander, it follows what it's been fed. In a world addicted to outrage and fear, you must be intentional about what you allow past the gates of your consciousness. Mental discipline isn't about ignoring reality, it's about filtering out what doesn't serve your forward movement. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every opinion needs a seat at your table. Your mindset is sacred, guard it accordingly. Cognitive psychology has long shown that repeated exposure to negative information, especially through media, can lead to increased anxiety, distorted risk perception, and even decision paralysis. In short, the more scarcity you consume, the less likely you are to act boldly. And wealth, in every form, rewards courageous clarity, not hesitant survival. This is why mental diet is not a passive thing. It must be curated. Think of your mind as a garden. What you plant, water, and allow to grow determines what eventually blooms. Negative input is like weeds, it spreads quickly and chokes potential. But nourishing input? That's sunlight. That's rainfall. That's what allows prosperity thinking to take root and flourish. One powerful shift is to replace passive consumption with purposeful learning. Choose books, voices, and environments that stretch your thinking and challenge your assumptions. Listen to those who've built lives of meaning and impact. Observe how they speak, how they interpret difficulty, how they move through the world. Let their mindset recalibrate yours. Also, be mindful of your inner circle. The people closest to you are part of your daily mental diet. Do they feed your vision or your fear? Do they reflect possibility or play the role of devil's advocate in disguise? Sometimes the most revolutionary thing you can do for your financial future is to outgrow conversations that no longer belong to your next level. This isn't about perfection. You don't have to eliminate every negative source. But you do need to outweigh it. Starve scarcity. Feed faith. Crowd out doubt with so much clarity that it has nowhere left to sit. Mental wealth is cumulative. It doesn't come from one motivational quote. It comes from what you expose yourself to repeatedly, habitually, deliberately. It's the result of disciplined consumption over time. Think of every thought you entertain as a guest. Some need to be welcomed, others shown the door. A wealthy mind knows the difference. And it chooses its company wisely. Your mental inputs shape your internal environment and financial outlook. Scarcity is subtle. Guard your mind like a gatekeeper. A curated mental diet empowers clarity, courage, and forward momentum. What's one source of mental scarcity you need to limit, or eliminate, from your daily life? Replace 10 minutes of negative input today with a podcast, book, or video that inspires wealth-minded thinking. Start the rebalancing process. Chapter 5. Act as if behavior precedes belief. Belief often waits for proof. It looks for the evidence, the signs, the guarantee before taking a step. But wealthy thinking flips that script. It doesn't wait for proof, it produces it. It acts as if the breakthrough has already begun, not because of delusion, but because of decision. Act as if isn't about pretending. It's about alignment. It means behaving today in a way that reflects the future you are building, not the limitations you are leaving behind. You don't wait to feel confident to move forward, you move forward until confidence catches up. Belief doesn't always come before action. In many cases, it's the result of it. Think of an architect designing a building that doesn't yet exist. There's no structure, no skyline, no physical evidence, just a blueprint. Yet every decision made is based on that unseen reality. The budget, the materials, the timeline, everything aligns with what hasn't been built yet. That's what acting, as if, looks like. You carry yourself according to the life you're constructing, not the one you're currently standing in. This principle isn't wishful thinking. It's behavioral psychology. Studies show that when people adopt the posture, tone, or habits of a more empowered identity, their brain chemistry begins to shift. Confidence rises. Creativity increases. Risk tolerance improves. Action changes biology. And biology influences belief. So how would a wealthy thinker approach today? Would they procrastinate on opportunities? Would they stay silent in rooms where their voice matters? Would they make choices rooted in fear of loss or vision of growth? Wealthy thinking shows up in the small things: how you dress, how you carry yourself, how you prepare for meetings, how you respond to setbacks. It's the tone in your emails, the way you follow up, the posture you take in spaces where value is exchanged. These aren't empty gestures. They're signals to your subconscious that say, "This is who we are now." And your subconscious listens. Acting as if doesn't mean overspending to prove a point. It's not about performance or image. It's about congruence. When your actions reflect your desired identity, you become a bridge between now and next. It's not about faking it, it's about embodying it. Consider someone who wants to lead but struggles with self-doubt. Waiting until they feel ready only prolongs stagnation. But if they begin to show up as a leader, listening deeply, speaking with intention, solving problems, they begin to reinforce that identity. Leadership is no longer just a wish, it becomes a practiced truth. The outer behavior reinforces the inner shift. That same principle applies to wealth. When you think, speak, and act from a place of increase, not desperation, you begin to attract experiences that mirror that mindset. You're not trying to prove worth. You're living from it. And that shift quietly rearranges everything. A wealthy mindset isn't loud. It's deliberate. It holds the door open for someone else. It follows through. It walks into a room with presence. It manages time with clarity and money with purpose. These behaviors don't wait for a bank balance to justify them, they come first. The belief follows. And so, the invitation is simple. Start acting like someone who is becoming what you desire. Speak like them. Walk like them. Decide like them. Not in pretense, but in practice. Because belief may waver, but behavior can anchor it. And once the two align, momentum becomes inevitable. Behavior can lead belief. Don't wait to feel ready to act. Acting as if aligns your current choices with your future identity. Small, congruent behaviors reinforce a wealthy mindset daily. What is one behavior you would adopt today if you fully believed wealth was already on its way? Choose one empowered action that reflects your desired identity. Do it today, before the belief feels solid. Let behavior lead. Chapter 6: Environment is a mirror. Stand in front of a mirror and raise your hand, the reflection follows. Not because the glass thinks, but because it responds. Environments work the same way. They don't decide for you, but they echo back what you present. And more often than not, they reinforce who you believe yourself to be. If your surroundings are chaotic, uninspiring, or steeped in scarcity, they'll quietly affirm that mindset every time you step into them. Your space tells a story, and your mind listens. The question is, does your environment reflect the wealth you're building, or the limitations you're trying to escape? Wealthy thinking requires more than internal shifts. It needs external support. The desk you work from, the conversations you entertain, the content you consume, the people you allow close, all of it becomes part of the atmosphere that either nourishes growth or stunts it. You are not just influenced by your environment, you are shaped by it. Researchers have long studied the concept of environmental priming. In one experiment, individuals surrounded by symbols of achievement, books, diplomas, motivational words, performed better on cognitive tasks than those exposed to neutral imagery. The environment didn't add intelligence, it activated a mindset. It reminded the participants of who they could be. Your environment is either an anchor or an amplifier. It will hold you in place or propel you forward. A cluttered room reflects and reinforces a cluttered mind. A neglected workspace signals neglective vision. But a space curated with care, even in small ways, tells your mind, this matters. You matter. What you're building deserves attention. This extends beyond physical space. The emotional climate matters too. Who you allow into your orbit shapes your internal dialogue. Words have gravity, and people carry atmosphere. Some lift you toward clarity, others fog your perspective. If you're constantly around those who complain, doubt, or shrink, you will feel pressure to do the same, whether you realize it or not. Wealthy thinkers are ruthless about atmosphere. They don't tolerate toxic spaces, not because they're fragile, but because they're focused. They understand that mindset is too precious to be left unguarded. They design their surroundings to match their direction, not their distractions. You don't need a mansion or a luxury office to build this kind of space. Sometimes, wealth starts with a clean table, a lit candle, a playlist that stirs your spirit. It starts with deleting toxic group chats, silencing negativity, choosing inputs that elevate. It's in the way you speak to yourself when you wake up, the voice you listen to before you sleep. Small shifts compound. A wealthy environment whispers reminders: you are capable, resourceful, worthy of the life you envision. Over time, those whispers become beliefs. And beliefs guide behavior. Think of the seed planted in the right soil. It doesn't have to strain to grow, it's simply supported. The environment makes the expansion inevitable. That's what your life needs. Not more strain. More support. And that begins with design, choosing to build spaces, connections, and habits that reflect where you're going, not just where you've been. So look around. What does your environment currently reflect? Is it a mirror of your past, or a window into your future? The mirror always tells the truth. But the frame is yours to choose. Your environment mirrors your beliefs and reinforces your mindset. Small, intentional changes in space and relationships amplify wealthy thinking. Atmosphere is either an anchor or an amplifier, curate it with purpose. What part of your environment reflects scarcity, and what could you change today to reflect abundance? Choose one area, your workspace, your phone, or your daily media, and refresh it to align with the mindset you want to grow. Let your space speak your future. Chapter 7: Questions Create Wealth. The quality of your questions determines the direction of your thinking. Ask shallow questions, get shallow answers. Ask empowered questions, and you unlock doors that were always there, just waiting for you to notice the handle. Most people don't question their limitations, they explain them. They narrate their fears with confidence, defend their scarcity as if it's identity, and rarely stop to interrogate the thoughts shaping their future. But wealthy thinking begins with curiosity. Not about what's wrong, but about what's possible. Questions are cognitive levers. They shift perspective, dislodge assumptions, and rewire the brain to search for answers instead of settling for conclusions. When someone says, "Why does this always happen to me?" their mind scans for evidence of victimhood. But if they ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" the same brain begins looking for growth. One question builds a cage. The other builds a bridge. The mind responds to the instructions it's given. Ask it to find reasons why you're unqualified, and it will deliver a highlight reel of every past mistake. But ask it what you've learned, how you've grown, and what skills you now possess, and the same brain rewrites the narrative in your favor. This is not self-deception, it's self-direction. Wealthy people don't just think differently, they question differently. Instead of, "Can I afford this?" they ask, "How can I create the means for this?" Instead of, "What if I fail?" they wonder, "What if this works better than I imagined?" Their questions tilt the mind forward, not inward. They don't shrink the goal, they stretch the strategy. Neuroscience supports this. Studies in neuroplasticity show that the brain is highly adaptable, constantly rewiring itself based on attention and intention. Questions are one of the most powerful tools to guide this rewiring. When you ask a bold, constructive question, your brain activates its problem-solving network, even if the answer isn't immediate. That activation alone primes your system to detect solutions in places you would have otherwise ignored. Wealth is built not just by answers, but by asking better things. The most successful people aren't always the smartest. Often, they're the ones who refuse to stop asking, who stay hungry for insight, who examine their setbacks and squeeze meaning from them. They've trained themselves to question their defaults and design their destiny. A simple shift in your daily questions can redirect your trajectory. Instead of starting your day with, "What do I have to do today?" try asking, "What would move me closer to my next level?" Replace, "Why is this so hard?" with, "What skill is this challenge sharpening in me?" Your questions shape your posture, your presence, and your performance. The wrong question reinforces the problem. The right question reveals the path. And you don't have to know all the answers yet. You only need to ask in a way that keeps your mind open and moving. Every wealthy thinker you admire, whether in business, art, leadership, or service, asked something no one else thought to ask. They looked at the same world and interrogated it differently. They didn't accept the limits. They questioned them. And in doing so, they found space where others saw walls. So pause. Listen. What questions have been guiding your thoughts lately? Are they rooted in fear or in vision? Are they keeping you confined, or are they calling you higher? Change your questions, and you change your mental map. Because wealth doesn't just respond to effort. It responds to inquiry. Ask better. Live better. Empowering questions guide the brain toward growth and opportunity. Your mind will follow the direction of the questions you ask most. Better questions create better outcomes, mentally, emotionally, and financially. What disempowering question have you been asking yourself, and what could you ask instead? Write down 3 empowering, wealth-aligned questions. Repeat them daily for the next 7 days and observe how your thinking begins to shift. Chapter 8. Gratitude Multiplies. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it's a frequency. And like all frequencies, it attracts things vibrating at the same level. The person who learns to be deeply grateful for what they have, even in seasons of lack, unlocks a magnetic power few understand. Because what you appreciate appreciates. Most people treat gratitude like a reward for comfort. When things go well, they give thanks. But wealth thinkers reverse the formula. They practice gratitude first. Not because everything is perfect, but because they understand that focus fuels reality. Whatever you continually notice expands. Dwell on what's missing, and scarcity stretches to fill the frame. Dwell on what's present, and suddenly you see more to be thankful for, and more flows from there. Gratitude is an amplifier. It takes something small and makes it feel full. It doesn't change the external facts, but it transforms your interpretation of those facts. A struggling entrepreneur might be knee-deep in uncertainty, but if they can wake up and say, "I'm grateful I get to build something that matters," they shift their emotional posture from defeat to determination. That shift alone may not change the bank account tomorrow, but it absolutely changes the decisions made today. Neurologically, gratitude lights up the brain's reward center. It releases dopamine and serotonin, the same chemicals associated with happiness and motivation. But unlike passive pleasure, gratitude is active. It rewires attention, reorients perspective, and builds emotional resilience. A mind soaked in gratitude doesn't just survive tough times, it grows through them. The mistake many make is believing that gratitude and ambition are opposites. That being content means settling. But the wealthy mindset knows better. Gratitude isn't complacency, it's alignment. It says, "I honor what is, while reaching for what could be." It holds presence and vision in the same breath. This creates a powerful paradox. The more thankful you are now, the more open you become to receive more later. It's not because you're manipulating outcomes, it's because your posture invites them. Gratitude keeps you grounded when growth feels slow. It reminds you that increase is already happening, even when it's invisible. And it shifts your identity from that of a chaser to a cultivator. You don't run after prosperity. You water what you've been given, and you watch it multiply. In relationships, gratitude strengthens bonds. In business, it builds loyalty. In health, it reduces stress. And in the mind, it unlocks a wealth that numbers can't measure. A grateful thinker walks into a room differently. They don't compete, they connect. They don't hoard, they share. Because they know the source isn't scarce. It's continual. It flows through them, not just to them. There's a reason some of the most financially successful individuals maintain daily gratitude rituals. It's not a feel-good habit, it's a strategy. It keeps the lens clean. It filters out entitlement and resets attention toward what's working, what's worthy, and what's waiting to be built. If you woke up today with nothing but the things you gave thanks for yesterday, what would still be yours? Gratitude is a practice, not a personality trait. It's a daily choice to tune into the good, even when life feels loud with lack. And the more you practice it, the more you realize, nothing is too small to honor, and nothing is too big to receive. Because when you think with gratitude, speak with gratitude, and move with gratitude, prosperity doesn't just visit. It stays. Gratitude shifts focus from lack to abundance and multiplies what you value. It's a strategy, not sentiment. Gratitude precedes growth. A grateful mind is more emotionally resilient, creative, and receptive to opportunity. What have you been overlooking that you can begin to honor with gratitude today? List 5 things you're genuinely grateful for right now, then speak them aloud. Let your environment hear the sound of wealth thinking. Chapter 9: Vision over Visibility. The most powerful ideas often start in silence. No audience. No applause. Just a flicker of vision behind closed eyes and a choice to believe in what hasn't yet been seen. Wealthy thinkers know that what isn't visible today may still be valuable tomorrow, and they build with that belief. In a culture obsessed with visibility, where success is measured by likes, followers, and external metrics, it's easy to confuse being seen with being significant. But vision doesn't require validation. It requires commitment. The seed doesn't ask the soil for permission to grow, it simply does. Quietly. Consistently. Underground. Prosperity begins this way, too. Not always with noise, but with clarity. A clear internal picture that others might not understand. And that's fine. Vision isn't a group project. It's personal. It's sacred. And the sooner you protect it from premature exposure, the stronger it becomes. The temptation is to wait until everything makes sense before taking action. To seek guarantees before investment. To delay movement until applause arrives. But vision matures in the shadows. It sharpens when no one's watching. The lack of visibility is not a lack of progress, it's a space for development. Think of inventors, artists, and entrepreneurs who changed the world. Their greatest breakthroughs were often ridiculed before they were respected. Not because they lacked value, but because they arrived before others could see it. Wealthy minds understand this. They don't abandon vision when it's invisible. They trust it. They steward it. And they build anyway. There's a term in psychology called delayed gratification, the ability to resist the pull of immediate rewards for the sake of a greater outcome later. It's one of the strongest predictors of long-term success. Those who master it know how to keep building the invisible without needing constant proof. They choose vision over validation. Strategy over spotlight. This doesn't mean ignoring feedback or living in isolation. It means distinguishing between internal conviction and external approval. When vision leads, visibility will follow. But when visibility leads, vision is often compromised. Wealthy thinkers are willing to be misunderstood for a season in order to be unshakable in the next. They know that external silence is not failure. It's freedom. Freedom to experiment, to refine, to fail in private and rise without distraction. The crowd often sees results, but rarely sees the roots. Your internal world must be louder than the noise around you. Because there will be days when nothing looks like it's working. Days when the progress is invisible, the doors are closed, and the feedback is non-existent. In those moments, vision is what keeps your hand steady. It reminds you that not all progress is public. And eventually, the invisible becomes undeniable. The idea no one understood becomes the standard everyone respects. The consistency you practiced in silence becomes the credibility you carry in public. But it only happens if you keep moving when no one's watching. So guard your vision. Feed it with clarity. Strengthen it with discipline. Speak it with conviction, even if only to yourself. You don't need the world to believe in it yet, you just need to stop abandoning it when it's still in seed form. Because in the end, it's not visibility that creates wealth. It's the courage to keep building what only you can see. That's how legacies are formed. Quietly. Boldly. Relentlessly. Vision often grows in silence before it's seen or understood. Visibility is not proof of value, commitment is. Wealthy thinkers prioritize long-term clarity over short-term attention. Where have you been waiting to be seen, when you should be focused on building in silence? Revisit one vision you've paused due to lack of external support. Take one private action toward it today, prove for yourself, not for anyone else. Chapter 10. Decisions define destiny. Every life is shaped by a series of decisions. Some feel monumental, others seem minor, but all leave fingerprints on the future. Wealthy thinkers don't wait for destiny to appear, they craft it, one decision at a time. Not by accident. By intention. Indecision is a silent thief. It doesn't rob in chaos, it erodes in hesitation. The longer you wait to choose, the more life chooses for you. And often, the default setting isn't designed for expansion. It's built for safety, comfort, familiarity. But wealth lives on the other side of comfort zones. It grows where clear decisions are made in alignment with vision, not fear. Every decision carries a signal. Saying yes to one thing sends a message about who you believe yourself to be. Saying no to another shapes the boundaries of what you allow into your life. Choices are not isolated events. They're investments. Some pay dividends. Others drain potential. The power lies in choosing with awareness, not autopilot. Wealthy minds don't make decisions emotionally, they make them intentionally. They pause, reflect, and ask, does this align with who I'm becoming? Is this a move made from abundance or from lack? They understand that not all opportunities are equal, and not every option deserves a response. Clarity is a form of currency, and indecisiveness is a tax on momentum. There's a psychological cost to delayed decisions. Studies show that prolonged indecision increases anxiety, weakens confidence, and diminishes satisfaction, even after a choice is made. The mind craves resolution. When decisions are clear, energy flows freely. When they're avoided, energy leaks. That leak compounds over time, draining not just time, but belief. Think of a person who's always 1 foot in, 1 foot out. They spend their days researching, overanalyzing, hesitating. They tell themselves they're being cautious, but what they're really doing is outsourcing their power to time, hoping clarity will arrive without effort. But clarity often comes from movement, not stalling. Action refines intention. Momentum creates perspective. Wealth thinkers understand this. They don't fear wrong choices, they fear missed ones. Because even a misstep can be corrected, but a step never taken leaves you stuck. They value course correction over paralysis. They build feedback loops into their life, not excuses. Not every decision is life-changing on the surface. But over time, small, consistent choices form a pattern. The person who chooses to read instead of scroll, to invest instead of spend, to ask instead of assume, that person begins to move differently. They operate from a place of agency. And agency, once cultivated, becomes unstoppable. You don't need to predict every outcome. You need to trust your direction. When your values are clear, your decisions become simpler. Not easier, but simpler. The noise fades, and you begin choosing what aligns, not what appeases. Your destiny isn't waiting in some distant moment. It's being built in the choices you make today, what you tolerate, what you pursue, what you let go of. Wealthy lives are not built by default. They are designed by decision. So the question isn't whether you're capable. It's whether you're committed to choosing powerfully, even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. The future doesn't respond to intentions. It responds to decisions. Every decision either aligns you with abundance or pulls you back into scarcity. Indecision drains energy and delays progress. Clarity creates momentum. Wealthy thinkers prioritize action over perfection and correction over paralysis. What decision have you been postponing, and what is it costing you to delay? Identify one meaningful decision you've been avoiding. Make it within the next 24 hours and take the first step forward. Let momentum begin. Chapter 11. Live it to become it. At some point, thinking is not enough. Speaking is not enough. Planning, journaling, vision boarding, none of it manifests change until action confirms identity. The final evolution of a wealthy mindset is embodiment. You live it to become it. Thoughts are the blueprint. Words are the scaffolding. But it's how you walk through your life that determines what gets built. Abundance isn't a theory, it's a rhythm. It shows up in how you start your day, how you treat others, how you spend, save, invest, create, and lead. Wealth isn't an act you perform. It's a frequency you carry. Many people do the inner work but forget the outer follow-through. They think wealth, but live worry. They speak abundance, but act in avoidance. That split creates friction. And friction slows down progress. But when your mindset and your lifestyle align, things begin to move. Doors open. People notice. Results multiply. Not because of luck, but because of congruence. Living wealthy isn't about extravagance. It's about integrity. You become the kind of person who handles resources with wisdom, not fear. Who values time, energy, and relationships. Who honors commitments and finishes what they start. Not because anyone is watching, but because that's who you've decided to be. Wealthy thinkers aren't waiting for arrival. They bring wealth into every room they enter, not by flashing status, but by walking in clarity. Their presence says, I am aligned with increase. I invest in what matters. I don't just hope for more, I operate as if it's already in motion. This level of embodiment shifts everything. Challenges aren't threats, they're training. Delays aren't denials, they're refinements. Wins aren't surprises, they're confirmations. The wealth you're building externally is simply catching up to who you've already become internally. And when you live that way, people feel it. Opportunities come not just because you qualify, but because you carry a signal of readiness. You don't chase, you attract. You don't force, you flow. Not from passivity, but from preparation. You've done the thinking. You've made the decisions. Now you live the mindset until it shapes your outcomes. Every habit you keep is a vote for the future you want. The way you handle your morning, your money, your movement, your mindset, it all matters. Even when it feels small. Especially when it feels small. Wealth doesn't usually arrive in big waves. It accumulates in quiet, consistent, aligned actions that add up over time. This is the season where you stop preparing and start walking. Where you stop seeking permission and begin creating proof. Where the life you've imagined becomes the one you embody, not perfectly, but faithfully. Because when you live it, you attract what belongs to it. You earn the respect that mirrors it. You build the habits that sustain it. And suddenly, you're not waiting for abundance, you're walking with it. So pause and ask yourself, if you fully believed wealth was your reality, how would you move today? How would you speak? Who would you become in every moment? The truth is, you already know. Now live it. True wealth is lived, not just thought or spoken, it shows up in consistent aligned action. Embodiment creates momentum, congruence attracts opportunity. Wealth becomes reality when mindset and behavior fully align. In what area of your life do your actions still need to catch up to your abundant mindset? Choose one habit that reflects your wealthy identity. Commit to living it out daily for the next 7 days, no exceptions, no hesitation. Live it to become it. Take care and be well.